So let me just 1 second. Sorry. Deja, can you click on let everyone in, please?
Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever the time is, where you're joining us from. You're welcome warmly to today's edition of webinar today. I would like you to kindly introduce yourself in the chat box. My name is Adewale Aderoju. I'm from the Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife. I'm the campus director of Cohort A. I'm excited to be your moderator today. I want you to feel free to introduce yourself in the chat box. Tell us where you are joining us from, your country, your campus, and also your project. Do it to also tell us the sustainable development goal that your project is addressing. Right now, I'll be telling what we'll be discussing today is on using the power of telling your story in your social impact. And we have a great personality in our midst today who'll be taking us through that in person of Nikhil Taneja. So why he is, I will call him soon to introduce himself. Keep introducing yourself in the chat box. Also, if you would like to unmute and introduce yourself, you are welcome to do so. I can see John Oluwafisayomi's video on. If you like to introduce yourself, you can unmute and introduce yourself to us. Let's keep it coming. Introduce yourself to us. Does Ayatollah Al-Jami want to introduce yourself by unmuting yourself? If you want to do that, you can go ahead. You can go ahead if you want to introduce yourself by unmuting yourself. And if not, okay, I think, okay, I can see Promise Barry Buffy has hands up. Can go, all right. Yes, introduce
Hi,
yourself to us.
good morning, everyone. I am by name Promise Barbovika from Nigeria, precisely River State, a student of University of Calabar campus. I'm here and I'm so delighted to be here and I'm excited and I'm hoping to learn more from my co-host and everyone here present. Thank you.
How are you?
That is great, promise. I'm so sure that you will learn a lot from here today. We're happy to have you. Another person, if you want to introduce yourself, just go right ahead and raise your hands. Gira Osman. Okay, introduce yourself so you can meet yourself. Gira Osman,
Yes,
unmute yourself and okay, go ahead.
yes. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Uganda.
It looks like Jira's speaker network is bad. Okay, I'll be taking just one person more. Joyce Shaben, you can go ahead. So unmute yourself and introduce yourself. We will not be able to take more than that. More than Joyce Shaben. You can unmute yourself and introduce yourself. Others, you can introduce yourself in the chat box. Go ahead, Joyce.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, you're welcome.
My name is Joyce Shabene. I'm Ugandan, but I study from Nairobi, Kenya, USIU, Africa. Nice to meet you all.
You're welcome, Joyce. We're happy to have you here too. Okay, right away, I'll be inviting our speaker today to give his welcome address. You're welcome, Nikhil Taneja.
Hi, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Amazing. I am really excited to come back here. I actually spoke to a previous batch of fellows, and it was one of the warmest, most delightful conversations that I had. It's so amazing to see so many people from so many different parts of the world. I think what MCN does and what the Millennium Fellowship does in bringing people from every different background together, I think it's so fantastic, so wonderful. And these are opportunities that, I wish when I was your age I would have gotten to interact with young people from different parts of the world, because I've always felt that we are all more alike than we are different. And when you get to actually hear the stories of each other, you start recognizing how much shared humanity we all have. So I hope that happens for all of you when you're on these sessions. So nice seeing the chat light up. I'm seeing all kinds of different countries. Of course, I see a couple of people from India as well. But yeah, it's really wonderful to see all the fantastic folks over here. I want to actually do this as interactive as possible, and I want to be able to answer a lot of questions. So I'm going to keep my remarks as short as possible so I can give more time to questions that you may have. But before that, I'll just quickly introduce myself and a little bit of the work that I do. My name is Nikhil Taneja, as spoken. And I run a company in India called Yuva. Yuva means youth in Hindi. It's been 5 years of me working on this. Yuva it's a for-profit company, but it works on impact. It is India's first Gen Z-driven youth insights, research, media, and impact organization. We work with some of India's biggest non-profits and dev sector organizations, from Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to Save the Children to UNICEF to Dasra to a lot of UN Women, many non-profits and dev sector partners that we have. We also work with some of India and the world's biggest multinational companies, whether it is Google, Meta, Spotify, Instagram, Maybelline, L'Oreal. With everyone, we work on purpose-driven solutions. So we try to come together to figure out how can we solve the problems of young India. Some of the key issues that we focus on are mental health, gender equality. We are now trying to have conversations around positive masculinity as well. We work a lot on LGBTQ rights. We work on everything that actually young people in India and the world are struggling with. We try to listen to young people and then try to work with partners in investing in trying to figure out how do we create, whether it is through content, whether it is through offline events, whether it is through conversations and activations, how do we create an impact in the lives of young people and make them feel a little less alone. Two philosophies or mottos, so to speak, that we have. One is almost like a mission statement, which is how do we make important things interesting for young people, because we just genuinely believe that there are so many interesting things in the world that unfortunately they end up becoming important. And until the important things become interesting, the interesting will continue to be important. So it's very important that we create, so we make sure we come together, that all the things that we care about, we find an easy, accessible, way of communicating them with our fellow young people. But we do this entirely for impact. The other thing that I've also mentioned before is our philosophy is the value system of Yuva, which is how do we make young people feel a little less lonely? How do we make them feel a little less alone in what they're going through? And by that we mean how do we make sure that they feel represented in the work that we do, in the kind of things we talk of, in the content that we make, in the offline conversations that we do, etc. That's about my company, Yuva. It's called We Are Yuva on all social media platforms. I'm just going to give our handle in the chat. Please check it out whenever you get the chance. Outside of that, my own background, I've actually been working in the dev sector as long as I've started my company. Before that, I was with one of India's biggest movie studios. So I was a filmmaker. It was called Yash Raj Films. Before that, I was with MTV India. Before that, I was a journalist with Hindustan Times. So I spent 15 years of my life 10 years of my life in the entertainment industry, 5 years running, impact-driven organization. And outside of my company and my backdrop, I have also been on the global advisory board of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, where I was one of the first South Asians to be on. They have a community, I'm sure you know of it. They have a SDG focused community called Goalkeepers. I was on the advisory board of that. Outside of that, I've just launched my own chat show. It's called Be a Man Yaar. It's on positive masculinity. I'm the creator and host of it. If you ever get the chance, please go check it out. There's a lot that I have in my life. I just want to give you a little bit of context so that you have some understanding to why I'm here speaking with you all. Although I always, when I'm talking to young people, I always feel that you have a lot more to give me than I may have to give you, because I genuinely enjoy listening to and really find a lot of, I think I learn a lot from young people, and that's why my company is focused on young people. Today, I mean, as I said, I'm going to try and keep it short. I'm going to tell you, I've put together for this session. I know that, the folks here have told me that the theme for you this year is emerging technologists. I am not good with technology. And the funny thing is that I studied computer engineering in my graduation. But if you give me a problem, if you tell me how do you solve things with technology, I'll draw a complete blank. So I'm going to tell you what I've learned, at least through the online ecosystem, the creator ecosystem, how you can use social media to better effect. How can you use a voice to better effects? I'm going to give you a few insights over there and a few learnings that I have. But before I begin, I just really want to again thank MCN and the United Nations Academic Impact for launching the Millennium Fellowship. The fact that 44,000 applicants were there from 3,000 plus campus and 4,000 plus people have been selected overall. I think it's just incredible to see so many of you having the same commitments to lead with empathy, humility, inclusion as guiding values. It is remarkable. And big cheers to James, the whole team over here. I know Sam, I've met Sam at Goalkeepers. I find him incredible. One of your founders, I find him absolutely incredible person. So yeah, huge congratulations to all of you. And with that, I'll take I think about 10 to 12 minutes to give you some learnings that I've had. I hope they help you. If they do, please ask me questions basis that. If they don't, let me know what you would like to hear from me. I'd love to answer questions after that. Okay. Learning one. and again, I'm going to keep this because all of you are impact fellows. You have so many of you have your own organizations. You have, I would imagine, your own social media following, and or at least you're trying to create some interest around what you're doing on the internet. I'm just going to try to put all of that in perspective with from 5 years of running a media company. Number one, create when you have something to say, not because something must be created. This is something that I truly believe in, that when you're doing something on the internet, do it only when you have something, whether it's a creator, whether it is creation, whether it is something you're saying, if you're building something for the new generation of young people, do it when you genuinely have something to say, not just because everybody else is doing it. Let me start by saying I understand it's not easy being a young person today, and definitely not easy being someone who's trying to build something, whether it's an impact organization, whether it's something on the internet that brings people together. Because when I was growing up, my comparison was with, honestly, in India, there are three people that you're compared with. I don't know how it is in different parts of the world, but you're typically compared with your neighbor. You're compared with the person who's doing highest in your classroom, and you're compared with that one cousin who always is either the same age as you or has the same kind of marks, and your parents are constantly telling that you do better than these three people, do better than your neighbor, do better than your cousin, and do better than the topper in your class, and or that one person in your class that who seems to be smarter than you, and that's it. That's great, right? But today, I understand that it's not just three people that you're being compared with. It's 3 million people on the internet that you constantly see who seem to be doing better than you, who you feel are smarter than you, are better looking than you, fitter than you, who are doing better in the impact space, who are creating better content, who have far more followers. And it gets tough because you constantly have self-doubt. What am I doing? Why am I doing it? And is what I do, does it even matter? It's so interesting when people first started building things on the internet or started creating on the internet. They were actually the first people to say something, do something or create something. And that was the value that it was, that you were the first person to have created this. As an example, the Millennium Fellowship, or as an example, what I'm doing at UA, we thought about this 5-7 years ago, and all of these things that we're doing since then has been building upon it. Now, all of you today are also probably trying to do very similar things, but you may not be the first one to do it because so many people have tried it. So the trend, anything you may be doing, you might be thinking, am I following the trend? Am I the one who is actually copying others, or am I worthy of doing, or will I ever be able to make it as much as other people who have been trying to do this? Now, so what I would like to offer you as advice is that don't try to, it's not about whether you're creating or doing something which is different. It is about whether you're creating value in what you're doing. Do you really believe in what you're doing? There can be 10,000 people who are working on gender equality, but what is the value that you are creating in that field? Who are you reaching out to? What is the point of interest for you? What is something that you believe in and that you care about more than the others who might be doing in this field? And then, of course, it's about allyship. It's about trying to find, connections with each other and doing it together. But yeah, don't worry about whether you're the first to do it. I think it's really important that you figure out that whatever you're doing, how are you creating value? Don't be in a race. I think that, there is no race to be done. I think at one point in the world, we used to look at each other as competitors. I think it is now important that we look at each other as allies. Everyone over here, there are 106 people over here. That is your opportunity on creating this friendship. I won't even say network building. I would say creating friendship and creating allyship with all of these people and finding a way of doing whatever you can do together. How many people over here are working on climate change? How many of you can actually come together and see, well, I'm trying to do this in my country, I'm trying to do this in my region, I'm trying to do this in this way. Can we all support each other and find a way of doing this together? Because the moment you try to do this together, that's the value that you're creating, and that's where you'll be able to make the biggest impact. So don't worry about being first, worry about being best, worry about if you're putting in effort and care, people will see it and they will come and join you. And I think what it will do is it'll add to the conversation and not the chaos. I think everybody, who doesn't have a reason for what they're doing are adding to the chaos. If you find your reason, if you find your value, you're adding to the conversation, which I think is extremely important in the world we live today. How can you make sense of things? That's my first thing. As I said, create when you have something of value, something to say, not just because something needs to be created and just because everyone else is doing it. Now, the second learning that I've had, which actually comes from the fact that sometimes I don't even believe that I have something to say, right? Everyone has self-doubts. I spoke about that. We get very worried about, do I have, do I actually have something of value to contribute? How do I even know? For me, at least, the answer for that has always been this motto that I live my life with, which is lead with listening. I truly believe that in the world we live in, when everyone has something to say, there are so few people who are willing to listen. Everyone has their own point of view. Everyone has an opinion. Everyone has something that they feel and they believe that should be put out there. But there are so few who are listening. Everyone has a story and everyone wants to tell their stories. And the reason that no one is listening, because everyone feels that I want to tell my story first, but why should I let anybody else speak when I didn't get to speak, right? There's also fear of judgment, that if I do speak first, or if I do put my thoughts out first, I will get judged for it. But that's where I come in. I feel like, in a world where everyone wants to speak, how can you listen? You are trying to reach out with the kind of work that you all are doing right now to other young people like you. Old people, unfortunately, and I count myself among them, some of them they are very set in their ways. You can keep screaming and few of them will actually care to listen. But there are many other young people like you in the regions that you work in the regions that you live in, and they can actually join you. You are creating for them, you are building for them. Whatever you're trying to do in the impact space, you're doing it for fellow like-minded fellow young people. You need to start listening. You need to start observing, and you need to start absorbing. What are they saying about the world right now? What are the comments that they're making? What are the tweets that they're sharing? What are they putting on the Instagram posts? Because that's when you recognize that, okay, here's the conversation that everyone seems to be having. And, they're about small things. We always feel like in the impact sector that we need to solve for the biggest problems. But honestly speaking, when young people like you may have actually very small problems, but which become big because they become unaddressed, because they go unaddressed. It's not, you don't need to start by saying, I'm going to change the world by transforming 1 million lives. Can you look at transforming or changing or helping one person in the region that you work with or in this field that you care about? Start from there. Try to understand what is that person want. And the way that you understand is by listening to them. That's the basis on whatever you will try to build. But if you don't listen, if you feel that you have something inside of you that you want to put out there, while of course your instinct can guide you to a certain point, if you don't listen, you will always fumble at some place or the other. So as much as I've spoken first about allyship, now I also believe that listening is very important. And when I say listening, I also mean listen to yourself. A lot of the times it's not just about what are you feeling as a young person. You are a young person yourself. What are you feeling? Why are you feeling it? Why is it that the thing that you care about or want to put out in the world is something that matters so much to you? What is your truth? What is your story? What is your belief system? Every one of you has overcome something to reach where you are in your lives. Your story, your belief system, your value system is just as important, but you really need to get to the deepest, most pure version of it to try to understand what is it that you really want to say. If you're not able to understand it, listen to others. If you genuinely have the introspection to be able to listen to deep down to yourself, to your own value system, I think that's where you'll be able to do much better job. But yeah, get to the truth of why you're doing something, whether it is through others, whether it's through yourself. The third point, which again is something that I used to use a lot in my life and really believe in. I don't know if any of you have seen this series called Ted Lasso. I'm a huge fan of, you can see I'm a huge fan of movies and content and television. There's a series called Ted Lasso on Apple Plus. which had this quote, which is actually a Walt Whitman quote, but it's become, I mean, in the present day, it's become famous. It says, "Be curious, not judgmental." Curiosity is, I think, the most underrated skill, or the most underrated value system that we have in our world today. Unfortunately, when you're growing up, if you're a curious child, you are sometimes called annoying. You are sometimes looked down upon. You're sometimes judged. I remember when I used to have a lot of questions in my classroom. At least in my classroom, the teacher sometimes would just throw a chalk at me and say, "Why do you have so many questions?" Well, I had questions because I was curious. Sometimes you ask your parents too many questions. Why is the world like this? Why is the sky like this? So many small questions that you have. And some parents and teachers and elders have the patience. Many don't. People are tired. And even so, in the world of today, life is tough. The world is unfair. So after a point, people are just, it's just easier for people to say, this is what it is. This is the way the world works. Just carry on like that. This is life. You don't need to ask so many questions. There are already answers. Just accept them. But curiosity helps you get to the depth of the questions, not just in the work you do, but in the people you meet as well, right? What drives people to get to create the level of impact that they do? All the people over here in your fellowship, there are so many of you. What is it about the person on these chats? So many of you have introduced yourselves. Which one of these people are you curious about? I can see people from Zambia, from Nigeria, from Kenya, and so many different parts of Malawi, Ethiopia. How much do you know about not just their lives or their regions, but about the value systems? What is it that they have also joined the same fellowship as you? And what is it that drives them? The more you start learning about them, you will also realize you learn something about yourself, because in others, we start recognizing things about ourselves. It's actually the stories of others that make you feel less alone. When you hear somebody saying something that makes you feel, well, you know what, I've gone through that. You somewhere start having more confidence in your own story, that I'm not alone in what I'm feeling, because we end up ultimately, unfortunately, thinking that everything we are going through, we're the only ones that go through it. But the moment we hear it from others, we realize, hey, we're all together in this, and that makes you feel the work that you're doing is going to be makes it much easier. But yeah, the other reason that you need to be curious, I feel like, if you end up doing everything else, if you end up doing things that everybody else is doing, and if you don't have that curiosity to find out new things, to find out, answers to questions that trouble you, you will just be like everybody else, right? If And the thing is that the world and the internet today, it actually wants to make you homogeneous. It wants to keep everyone in the same box. It wants to, everything is data, right? For algorithms, for data companies, for social media companies, everybody is one big box. It's all one label. It's one generation. It's the Gen Zs. You're supposed to do the same reel dance. You're supposed to watch the same content. You're supposed to like the same things. I think the only common thing among everybody of this generation is Taylor Swift. But outside of that, I don't know if anything is common throughout, because everybody has different experiences, right? And you need to, and if you're curious about it, if you ask how, if you ask why, if you try, if you fail, you experiment, you take risks, that's when you start doing things that others are not doing. You have the opportunity to stand out by not trying to fit in. So yeah, and as I said, be curious, not judgmental. I say that very specifically because I know that there's a lot of judgment, and we know that there's a lot of judgment because we judge too. And we all do, right? Like, let's not be hypocrites over here. We all do. We know that people judge because we judge people. But if we stop judging, if we are authentic, if we are ourselves, people will stop judging too. The internet today, unfortunately, has amplified the loudest voice, the biggest troll. You get the maximum likes to the nastiest comment. But these are words, and we have given power to these words. We need to be free of these words, and we genuinely need to be free of the toxicity of the internet. And the way to do that is actually turn things around by saying positive things, by caring about positive things. You can constantly talk about how bad the world is, or you can take action in trying to make it better. You can constantly point out the things that are wrong, or you can work with each other to correct them. And I feel that's something that only folks like you who are putting themselves out there have, that others don't. Nobody who's commenting on the work that you do or judging on you and saying, oh, this is a young person, what do they know? They don't understand the joy, the passion, the love, that care that goes into building something that you're doing. They don't know what it means to put yourself out there, to be vulnerable, to fail 20 times before you succeed that one time. But that's that life, that experience is what gets you to be where you are. You're out there being vulnerable, you're out there opening yourselves to others, and I feel like that's very inspiring to me. I think it's the vulnerable moments, the failures that you have, that actually make you the person that you are. And yeah, don't worry about that. Continue being curious. If people judge you, let them judge. You do you, and I think you already are. Which is amazing. The last couple of points very quickly. One point that, while I can keep talking about failure, I know that it's very difficult to deal with. I have a mantra that says, it's okay to fail. Just try to fail better. You will fail. There is no one who doesn't fail. Every person you love, every activist you love, every creator you love, every business person you love, anybody who's a startup or the impact that work that they're doing, everyone has tried and tried and tried, and tried to get to that place where something works, and nothing has worked for a very long time before something has worked. Failing, I feel, is okay. I think we give too much importance to success. You can look at me, I seem successful, that's why I'm here, I'm 37. But I can promise you, there are people who I know who are about 10 years younger than me, who are earning maybe like 10 times as much as me, because I'm in the, I'm in the development sector. I know that if I was not in this sector and if I was doing a corporate job, I would be earning a lot more. But my definition of success isn't that. It's not actually defined by money. It's defined by my ability to actually spend my afternoon having a conversation like this with a lot of you, to speak to you, to listen to you, to interact with people across the world, young people, to be able to take care of my family, to create a good culture in the company that I work with, those are my value systems, and that's failure for me. That's success for me, right? And so everyone needs to define your own definition of success, and that will happen after you experience failure. I can today my company is well known. It is successful in practical terms. It's profitable. Everybody knows about it in India. A lot of people know about it in India. But I know that year one and a half of Yuva was an absolute and complete disaster. I still have PTSD when I think about those times when I failed so often that I came so close to not carrying on, and somehow I did. Somehow I persevered, and today we are here where we are. It's not about how hard you fail. It's about how you pick yourself up and how you fight back. That's from Rocky. I absolutely love Stallone. If you haven't watched that film, do watch it. I genuinely feel every failure is a learning experience. You learn far more from failure than you do from success. So even when you fail, just be grateful, because you will learn something, and use that learning to try again. And if you fail again, at least you are feeling better than you failed last time. And sometimes when it's not working, I also want to say, take a break. Give yourself some time. Give yourself some space. Disconnect, detox. Come back when you are rejuvenated. I feel like people who care very deeply about the world, people like you who are here, who genuinely want to make the world better, I think they care so much that when things don't work out, they take it very personally. You take it very personally. I've taken it very personally. I've only now realized after many years that I'm just one person. And I'm also allowed to give myself time and space to recover. If I want to create a better world, first I need to, it's the oxygen mask cliche, but it's a cliche because it works. If you want to take care, then first you have to wear the oxygen mask yourself. Only then can you help anybody else with it. So give yourself that love, give yourself that compassion. Don't be so harsh on yourself. We all know you care deeply, you care deeply, but every once in a while when you fail, it's okay to take some time away. It's okay to get better and then come back. And then lastly, This is overall my favorite thing and my favorite point of view, which is whether in success or failure, be kind. It's a guiding philosophy of my life, my career, my company. I know that there's pressure, as I said. It almost seems like everything is making our life shorter. There's climate change. There is so many problems with the world. There is bad politicians. There is so much that happens on a daily basis that doesn't help. But even when times are not good, it is actually even more important to be kind in those times. See, the thing about one of the things that I'll say is, the thing about kindness is it's very closely connected to privilege. You are not, you are never not kind to people with more power than you, but you're okay with being kind with people who have lesser privilege, who are marginalized, who come from economic backgrounds that may not be as well as yours. You can go to a really expensive store and and see a very expensive dress and never haggle with them, never negotiate. The dress could be of a certain amount of money and you'd just be like, listen, I don't mind paying this because I've come to you because I know you're expensive. At the same time, you might go to somebody who actually doesn't have that kind of privilege, who has a roadside shop, and you might negotiate with them. And the reason being, it's about power, and we do this with people around us as well. Yeah, anybody who is in a bigger position or seems or in a better designation, so to speak, we're always kinder to them, or at least politer to them. But anybody who is younger to us or may not be as as privileged as us, we are okay with being moody with them. And I feel like it's very important, and this as Millennium Fellows, that our intention is to bring in people, not shut them out. We need to make the world, the internet, safer for every person, no matter what, color, creed, community, in India, caste, where do people come from? Let's not judge. It's very easy to make fun of others and or just look down on people who are not. But it's important to understand that everybody has a story that you know nothing about. And until you start looking at each other, not from a place of labels, but from a place of stories, you'll realize, as I said at the beginning, that all of us are far more in common with each other. There's far more that unites us than that divides us. And it's the same with you. People may not know your story, and that's why they may be judging. People may not only see you as a young person. They may see you only for the region that you're from, the gender that you are, the background that you have, and they might be judging. But don't let them affect you. If I'm asking you to be kind to others, I'm also asking you to be kind to yourself. Even if somebody is doing something wrong to you, it's not about you, it's about them. Don't take it on yourself. Don't let anybody be unkind to you because they are not able to see your humanity. You are able to see yourself in the mirror every morning you get up. You are able to look at yourself and be proud of yourself because of the work that you do and the care that you have. And that's amazing. Be that. You are, as a young generation, you're doing things that people are going to resonate with. They're going to relate to it, and you're building in a world where everybody is passive. You're active. You're doing things that matter. So and it is our duty, I truly believe, to leave the world better than we found it, for ourselves and a future generation. At the same time, I feel like, and at a time like this, kindness is a privilege, and it is also a flex. If you're kind, you feel better too. You're in control of your emotions. You're more evolved. You're also smarter than others, I feel, because you're not letting things get to you. And it's better for your mental health on most days. So, because of course, I understand that people sometimes can be annoying. It's difficult to be kind. But on all other days, kindness brings you kindness. It's a chain reaction. So yeah, I know it's difficult to be kind always, but start by being kind to yourself, and then just make sure that you are kind to others as well, because we're all trying over here to be as inclusive as possible. But these are the points that have always made have gotten me to the place that I am, that have helped me in my life. whether it is being kind, whether it is feeling better, whether it is being curious, whether it is leading with listening, and whether it is saying something when something needs to be said and not just because it is being said. I'm going to put these points in the chat over here. I hope they are of help to you. I'm sorry, I don't like using slides because I feel like the personal collection gets missed. So I'm just going to put them over here, and I hope some of them are of help to you. And if they are, please let me know. If they aren't, I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm just putting all the points in the chat box so that it can be of help. But as I spoke about listening, let me also thank you. I put all the points over there. Hopefully they are of help to you. But I spoke about listening. You have very patiently listened to me for about 20 minutes and 25 minutes. And I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for being kind to me and for giving your time to me. I am so glad and so grateful. And thank you, MC. And I'm open to any questions you may have now.
Thank you so much, Nikhil Taneja. It has been a very great time. Have my just has filled up, and I can see that everyone who have a lot of things to learn from you. They are already sharing what they have gained from this session. Guys, you'll be asking your questions, but just keep prepare your questions. There will be a time that I will read that. It will be a time that I will call to ask your question, but prepare your questions. I'll be asking just one question from Nikhil. And I believe it's not a coincidence that we're having Nikhil today, because today is actually the World Mental Health Day. So it's a great privilege to have Nikhil join us, and he has given us a whole lot of things as people that are into social impact. To be kind to ourselves, whether success or failure, just be kind to yourself. And everybody has something to tell, everybody have a story to tell. Just go ahead, believe in what you have to do. You have something to do, just believe in it and go ahead and do it. Thank you so much, Nikhil. I'm just curious. This is the question I want to ask you. Guys, please prepare your question. And my question for you is that what actually inspired you to go into this journey of mental health, youth leadership, and development? What inspired you to go into this sector? Thank you. Can you just share with us how you decided to go into this path? Thank you.
Honestly, it's so interesting. It is World Mental Health Day, and we are having this conversation today. On my journey actually started with me being diagnosed with clinical anxiety. So my mental health wasn't good in my in the last in the job that I was doing, and I had to quit my job. I had to take therapy. I had to try to understand what was going on with me, where was the anxiety coming from. And it is in therapy and in trying to understand my own mental health that I realized that I was living a story. And I know this sounds it sounds vague, but I felt like I was living a story that was given to me by my society, by my parents, by my gender, when they asked me to do, every parent has milestones for their children, that by this age you're going to do this, by this age you're going to do this. In India, it is by 18 you have to get into an engineering college, especially if you're a boy. After that, you have to try to do an MBA, then you have to try to get married, then you have to try to have children, then have a house, then have a car, and at the end of that you settle down. It's almost said as you've reached the goal that you had in your life. And these are stories that are given to us when we are born. We are told that this is your life's path. Whether it is your society telling you what to do, whether it is your parents telling you what to do, whether it is your teachers telling you what to do. I don't think any of us gets to understand what our own story is. And I had to really fight that. And it was anxiety that helped me fight it. Anxiety brought me to a point where I had to realize that I don't think that I was doing the things that I was doing because I wanted to do them. I was doing them because I didn't even step back ever from the machine that our lives are to actually think, what is it that I care about? What is it that I attach value to? What is it that drives me as a human being? And when I started asking those questions to me, which was 6 years ago, 7 years ago, when I turned 30, actually, it's when the answers would come back to me, and those answers were, well, I care about young people. I used to be a teacher as well. I used to teach in a college. That was something that I really cared about. I said, I care about young people. I care about trying to create impact in the lives of young people in some way or the other. And I am good at, my skill set is that of a media person. I'm a filmmaker. I understand content. How do I bring the worlds that I encompass together? How do I build a company that possibly uses content or entertainment or storytelling as a form of creating impact in the lives of young people? So a lot of it actually, and what a day today in mental health, World Mental Health Day, I can actually, my journey started with my mental health suffering, so to speak, me having anxiety, and then having the clarity after that to learn that I need to do something for myself. So mental health has actually been a great beneficiary to me. My anxiety has helped me learn my story better. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you so much, and that is really inspiring. Thank you for sharing your story with us. Because of our time, we have a lot of hands-on. A lot of people have questions for you, and I'll start calling on the hands that I can see now to start asking your questions. So, Salonin Gulati, can you unmute yourself and ask a question?
Hi.
Yes,
Yeah,
Saloni.
first of all, wishing everyone a mental health day. Hello, sir. It was great listening to you today. I mean, I really resonated with your definition of your value system, like, of success. I have something a little off topic for you today to ask. So you've done work in so many sectors, whether it's mental health, it's yoga, it's filmmaking, it's cinema. So, as an outsider, how do you navigate there? As a person, I'm just in a lot of things in filmmaking, in marketing, especially in the cinema part and the filmmaking, and you've done that for so long. So how do you navigate through that? I mean, yeah.
I mean, I have,
Like,
the honest answer is you don't think about it. You just, jump deep into the swimming pool and then learn to swim. I don't think that I have actually ever given thought to, as I said, to
yeah,
why I was doing what I was doing and how I was navigating through it. It was all very instinctive. I did know that at a very young age that I wanted to tell stories. I did have ambitions and
yeah,
goals, to reach the places that I've reached. I wanted to be in a movie studio, and I was in Yash Raj Films, you might know, and I was.
yeah. I'm very able to resonate with that. Like, a big fan of cinema since I was a kid. So, but
Yeah.
I'm like right now I'm doing BBA, so I'm very unsure about it. How to go about it. Yeah.
If that's something that you are wondering, Saloni, I would say that, we put a lot of pressure or a lot of um, we ask young people to figure out their lives very early. I feel like when you're
Yeah.
18, you're told like, okay, you need to choose this. You are at 17, 18, you are supposed to pick up what you're going to do for graduation. That is supposed to decide what the rest of your career is going to like. No, it can't. Your degree cannot decide your career or your life. Your job cannot decide what you want, what your interest should be for the rest of your life. That's just one part of it. Is you can have a 3-year degree or a 4-year degree and still decide to do something else, because that's you are as a young person, you have multitudes inside of you, and you should be allowed to find these things out about for yourself. You shouldn't be by the fact that, okay, just because I got 4 things, just because I've spent 3 years here, that doesn't, for a 3-year degree you're going to spend 30 years doing the thing that you've done just because of the degree. I don't think that's fair. I think we should explore as much as we can in our life. It's one life. If you feel if you care about one thing and that doesn't go well, or you lose interest in that, try another thing. Give yourself that time to experiment. You are young. This is the time that you can. In fact, I feel like even as an older person, I shouldn't hold myself back. If today I don't, if I feel like I've done 5 years of my company, and I was the CEO of my company. This year I actually transitioned. I have gone from being just the CEO of the company to only being the founder of the company, and handing over the CEO-ship to another young person, someone who's about 8-9 years younger than me, because I genuinely feel that young people should lead my company. But more importantly, I felt that my job was done. For 5 years, I led the company. I don't think that I had more to offer, or I could continue doing that. But I think a lot of that just comes from ego, or it comes from a fear that if I don't do this, how will I make myself How would I learn a new thing and how will make myself an expert in that new thing? But life is not about trying to just be experts at everything, right? It's about also trying things and sometimes failing at it, but at least doing things that you love. And that's how I look at it. I don't feel like we should limit ourselves. I think all of us have multitudes inside of us, many things that we want to try and experiment with. Give yourself that time and space. Of course, if you feel like it's not working out, or you lose interest in it, then also have the understanding and that insight and the intelligence to try other things.
Thank you so much, Nikhil. We'll be bringing others to ask their questions now. But guys, I want you to also share your reflections from his keynote remarks. So you can briefly share in a few seconds what you have learned, and then go ahead asking your questions. So you can add that Chuku. You can go ahead, unmute yourself and ask your questions, and also share with us what you have learned from today's webinar.
All right. Thank you so much for your presentation. I really enjoyed it and I had a lot to learn. My name is Usada Chukwu from Nigeria. So my question actually, because I listened to everything you said, being a founder and everything, only God knows how much you went through trying to build your company. My question is actually geared towards like, when do you know when to stop trying or when to quit?
Wow. That's such a
Because
good question. That's such a great question. What's your name? What is,
my
how
name is
do you, sorry?
my name is Adachukwu. Adachukwu.
Adachukwu. Where are you from?
I'm from Nigeria.
Yeah, first of all, very nice to meet you. And what a great question. It's not easy. I think there is always such a fear of either quitting too early or too late. I think that's
Yes.
always the fear in our head, that am I quitting right now because and I have not tried enough? Or sometimes it is, I have tried so long, should I quit now? There is never a right answer. I think it is instinct. It's instinct. The way I look at it, and again, it's different for different people. The way I look at it is, if something stops bringing you joy, you should really reconsider why you're doing it. I feel like earlier, a lot of people used to do the work they do only to earn a paycheck, which is good. It's not like I think that's also completely valid. If you're only doing it for the paycheck, some of us cannot afford to have lofty thoughts about choosing our work. Some of us just have work that must be done, and for those people, full respect to them. But for the rest of us who have the privilege to figure out what we can do in our lives, I think we should try to choose things that bring us joy, that bring us happiness, that bring us that when we wake up in the morning doesn't make us feel like, why is this my life? Why am I doing this? And I feel like I always do the things that I do until the point they start bringing me joy. They stop bringing me joy. I feel like I give myself about 3-4. Is it just a emotion? Is it just a momentary thing? Am I feeling it because I've had a bad day? Am I feeling it because I have a bad face? Am I feeling it as a reaction? If not, if it's consistent, if I consistently feel that the work that I'm doing, that the people that I'm working with, or the place that I'm at isn't making my life simpler, it's not, you're going to spend so much of your life in the work that you do, and you're going to get so much of that life with the people that you work with. You're possibly going to see more of the people that you work with than your own spouse, than your own partner, than your own parents. And that is unfortunately a very big truth. So you need to choose very wisely, where are you spending your time with? And I feel like if at any point of time it seems toxic, if it seems difficult, then you can think that, okay, I can quit. It's never an easy answer, and it's different for everyone. But I hope that, when you do quit, you don't look back and regret, because it's a decision. As I said, either you learn something when you quit or fail or don't do well, or, it's a great story to tell. You can do a panel like this, a discussion in 10 years down the line in another MCN session and say, I quit that time and it went well, so here's a learning from there. Or I quit that time and it was really a bad decision, so here's a story from there. And that's how I look at it. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for asking. What a wonderful question.
Thank you, Nikhil. Right now I'll be asking Sahid Mohammed to ask his question now. You can unmute yourself and ask your question, Mohammed.
Okay, thank you very much, for such a wonderful presentation. My name is Said Muhammad Lawan from Nigeria. My question is, sometimes I feel like I have more than one calling. Sometimes I feel like calling is climate change, education, and mental health. So my question is, how do I prioritize my calling? Uh, for example, to choose just one, maybe climate change, maybe education,
Yeah.
maybe mental health.
Such a
I'm
great
a little
question. Again, Saeed, I think such a great question. You all are, I mean, again, as I said, every time I come to the MCN, I think I learn so much from the way that you all think. Again, Saeed, unfortunately, there is no one easy answer to that question, right? I have grappled with it. If you look at my LinkedIn, it makes no sense. My LinkedIn is just, it seems like this is a mistake because I did engineering. Then I worked in journalism. Then I worked in a TV channel. Then I worked in a film studio. Then I've become an entrepreneur, started my company. Now I have a chat show. In the middle of all of this, I've done teaching. In the middle of all of this, I have worked in the dev sector. If you look at my LinkedIn, it just seems like 8 different people's, LinkedIn together, but it is one person. I have actually gone from many different industries to many different industries because that's where my life has taken me and that's where I found joy in, right? And Zaid, and I think I don't believe that we should try to limit ourselves to one idea or one story for ourselves. We should always allow ourselves to explore every bit of ourselves, right? And when I was at one point, my parents thought that engineering is the right thing for me, and I did it. But while I was doing it, I realized this is not something I can do for the rest of my life. And 4 years later, I went into journalism because I was a good writer. In journalism, I had a sense that, you know what, I like writing, but I don't think this is a good career because at that time, a priority for my life was to also earn money. I ended up actually in an organization where I was as MTV, I was a producer. That gave me the opportunity to discover another part of my life, which is my skill set of content. Did that, and every single part has added to who I am as a person today. Every calling of mine, every time that I've given into an instinct and said, you know what, I should try this, I should try that. Not everybody can do it. Not everybody must do it. And Saeed, you will have to decide for yourself what matters to you more at a certain point of time. If sometimes it's the urgency of the issue, you've said education and climate change as example. What do you think you matters to you more at this point of time? Start from there. If you feel like, okay, it matters to me, but it may not be a great job for me, then you go and try something else that see that, okay, maybe I can, this matters to me, but I don't have the right job. Maybe I should change my job. You will have to try, you have to experiment, you will have to take risks, you will have to fail at them. And then somewhere down the line, you start realizing, you know what, actually the theme of my life has been this. So as an example, I've been working on young people. Even when I was a journalist, I worked with young people when I was in MTV. And then 8 years later, I was like, you know what the pattern of my life is? I actually really like working with young people. I didn't even realize it while I was part of it, right? It made sense retrospectively. Today, I am working on positive masculinity as a very strong thing that I care about. And the reason for that is in the last 7 years, that's something that just hasn't stopped, poking at me. That this is important, Nikhil. You need to talk about this. This is important. This is affecting you. And it's only 7 years later that I'm looking back and saying, you know what, now I need to really do something about this as an actionable. So I created a show around it. I think for the next 4 or 5 years, I want to talk about positive masculinity a lot. Maybe after that, I will see a different problem, or I have a different calling, or if a different thing that I feel, or I might feel I've done enough in this field and I might want to change it. So yeah, you have to let your life take its path, and you need to just plunge. Whatever you're doing, do it with all your heart. and you will realize that it's every one of these things are you. You don't need to worry about if you have one calling. Every one of these is your calling, and every one of things, as long as you find joy in it, as long as you're doing it with your all your heart, and it makes you happy, then don't worry about what one box or one direction you need to fit in. You will find it eventually. This is what I believe. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you so much, Nikhil. I will still have some hands up. I don't know if you have some few minutes
I
to
do.
go.
I can spend another 10-15 minutes. If you have questions, I would love to answer.
Okay, thank you so much. We really appreciate that. Okay, so Buluwatifed, Daramola. But before you come up, Buluwatifed, somebody has a question here in the chat box that seems overlapping with Said's question. So my question is, how are you able to channel all of your interest into one thing? Because multi-potentialities often get confused sometimes because of various interests.
Yeah, great question, Margaret. Because so again, that's where skill set comes in, right? So there is interest, and then there is skills. There is calling, and then there is talent, or or even learning or expertise. My interest would be in working with young people. My interest is positive masculinity right now. The way that I can do this is content. The way that I can do this is storytelling. The way that I can work on this is creating a chat show and doing interviews, because those are my skill sets. So you need to figure out what is the skill set you're good at. There is obviously ikigai is this wonderful phenomenon that you may have heard of, where it is an intersection of the thing that you love, the thing that you are good at, and the thing I think that you can get paid for. I think these are the ikigai, I suppose, that you also obviously need to earn money. So what are the things that fall at this intersection? It's not easy to find out. It is going to take some time, but yeah, don't. Sometimes your interest and your skill set might overlap. Sometimes they may not. I am in the development. Just as you are, it's so interesting. And again, I need to tell you this anecdote. We don't do anything in a traditional way that you would imagine somebody working in the development sector in the nonprofit space as, right? We make content, we make entertainment, but we have suddenly over the last 5 years become the go-to company for most nonprofits in India, because we are the only one who has the skill set of making important things interesting. Our skill set is talking about climate change, but in an interesting way, talking about gender, but in an interesting way, talking about mental health in a way that works. So now, if I would have gone the traditional route, which is on ground, which is not my skill set, but it is something that I care about, I may not have been able to make that deep an impact. But because I brought my skill set as well as the thing that I care about together, I was able to find that beautiful ikigai, right? So you also need to kind of figure out what is it that you're good at doing that can also make you money, and how can you now use that with the thing you care about and with the thing that you want to make an impact in, and how can it come together. Again, all of these things take time. I need to let you all know that you're all very young. Please take that time in your life. Don't have the pressure and the impatience of finding all these things right now. It takes time. You will not find your calling in 3 days. You're not going to find your ikigai in the next 1 month. It will take time. Give it that time. Give yourself that space to learn, to explore, to experiment, to take risk, to fail, to learn and succeed again. If you do that, you are going to find you will have a good life, because it's not about that. I mean, it's a cliche again. It's not about the destination. It's about the journey. As long as you're enjoying the journey, you're doing it with your heart, and you're doing it with people that you love, I think you're going to, whichever destination you reach, you're going to really like it.
Thank you so much for that, for insight into that. Buluwatife, you can go ahead, unmute yourself and ask your question. We will not be taking more than the 3 hands that are up. So others, I can see Buluwatife and Shalom and Muyiwa Afolabi. The 3 after Buluwatife will be taking Shalom and Muyiwa. Others, maybe you'll be sending your questions directly to Nikhil. Most likely he will be sharing with us, if he doesn't mind giving us his email, where you can, or his
going to
LinkedIn
give you
account, where you can share your questions to. But Boluwatife, you can go ahead asking a question.
All right, good day, everyone, and happy Mental Health Day to everyone. Thank you, Saniki, for sharing these great insights with us. First, I want to make a reflection before asking my question. So it was not until today that I learned that people in India to get compared with 3 people. I thought it was something peculiar to Africa, or let me say Nigeria, because here in Nigeria, you get compared with that talented person in your class, that skillful or most brilliant. You understand? So they create this mental picture in our head and this kind of story that we have to follow, a certain societal trend that we have to follow. They are not giving us that opportunity to create our own story. So for someone like me, that I feel that, okay, the unconventional job is something I really want to go into, for example, pageantry. Most people in, let me say, some African parents do not really see a future in that. So I want to ask that for someone like you that studied a course in sciences, and then along the line, you find yourself in art and you are doing so great. When I went through your profile and I saw Yash Raj films, I was like, oh my God, because I am a fan of Bollywood and I really, really, really love Bollywood. Let me share this, that when I went for the audition of Lush Pink Bell and the opportunity to work with Z Word came up, I was so excited. But then I didn't get it. But then I was like, this is something I really want to do. It got me thinking that how about so many girls that they really want to do this, but they have this picture in their head that if you are not an engineer, a doctor, a this, a that, you definitely can have a future and you're not standing for something. So, sir, how did you like create a niche for yourself and you're doing so great without societal issues?
Oh, what a wonderful, again, I think all of you have just been asking such wonderful questions. I'm learning so much about you. But I'm so happy, Bulu Watife. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name right.
It's okay, sir.
But it's so nice to know that you are a fan of Bollywood as well. And it's so nice to know that you are so deeply interested in creative arts as well. And I've actually had these conversations with a lot of my, that's why I said, whenever anyone says Nigeria, I know that hopefully you've also interested in our films, because I made a bunch of friends in Nigeria who have this common language of films and cinema. So really nice to know that about you. And yeah, I'm not even surprised that, this is the case that you're also being compared in your schools, in your classrooms, at your homes. This is unfortunately, I think, parenting everywhere. I thought it was only India, but I suppose it's everywhere else as well. You said that how can you do this without societal issues? You will always have societal issues, Boluvitefe. There is no way that that's not going to happen. In the world we live in the societies we live in the regions we live in, there is a lot of, and I'll explain why it happens, right? For the longest time, our parents, have grown up in a world where they did not have this level of privilege or this level of luxury or even this connectivity or the aspiration or the hope or the opportunity that my generation had, and that definitely your generation has. The fact that today we are sitting on a Zoom call and I'm in India and I'm able to share my life with you while you're in Nigeria, that didn't happen in your parents' times, right? When they were growing up, they didn't have all of this. Their understanding of what is safe, what is a guaranteed way of earning a life for themselves, of putting food on their table, was these few things, right? You be an engineer, you be a lawyer, you be a doctor, you do things that will get you the guaranteed degree, and there's a guaranteed job, because we are all in developing economies. In developing economies, these jobs will always be needed, because as there are more people, there'll be more doctors needed. As there are more development, there will be need more engineers. So these are just safe things for your parents to believe that if you do this, there is no chance that you are not going to earn money. For them, it's important that what they didn't have growing up, you will have. So that's where they come from. So I have now in all my years, started to have a little bit empathy for our parents, in recognizing that, yes, they want best for us. They ultimately want us to be happy, but they think our happiness will come from money. Whereas the one difference that has happened in the previous generation and ours is that we recognize that even if we get a little less money, but we do things that bring us joy, that's important. We don't want to be stuck in jobs that we don't like for all our lives just for money. It's not that money is not important for your generation or for that matter for mine. It's just that it's a means to an end. It's not the means, it's not the end itself. The end is doing something that brings you happiness. That's something you need to understand. That's something you need to recognize about your life, and you need to make peace with it. Your parents are always going to have issues. Your society will always have issues. But if you are able to find a way of doing what you do while finding a way of earning through it, that's when everybody will stop speaking. It took me, when you spoke about Yash Raj Films, my parents stopped telling me to do an MBA only when I joined Yash Raj Films. It was at 27 I joined it. For 6-7 years of my career, they would tell me, do an MBA, do an MBA, do an MBA, do an MBA, because that's the only way you're going to get to a good job. You're going to get good money. That's the only way, only way, only way. When I got Yash Raj Films, because it is super famous, because they could show it off to their friends. When my parents' friends would ask, what does your son do? They'd be like, oh, he's in Yash Raj Films. Have you heard of it? And they'd be like, of course we've heard of it. And then they'd be like, yes, we are successful. Now we can show off about our son to other old people, right? So it also comes, it's also about them not feeling as parents, right? They also don't want to feel like they have failed. When somebody asks, what is your child doing? Oh, they're doing a job that I don't understand, and that's difficult for them to talk about. So it's all of those things. You will have to negotiate. You will have to take a little bit of time. You'll have to spend a little bit of energy in fighting with your parents sometimes, explaining things to them sometimes, having empathy for them sometimes. But eventually you will reach a place where they get why you're doing what you're doing. It's not easy. None of what I'm talking about is easy. But if you're at it, if you're consistent, if you persevere, you will find a place where you're doing what you love and you're bringing money off of it. And somehow your parents are also happy with it, but it'll take time. It's not going to happen quickly.
Thank you so much for that insight and advice. Bulu Atife, you can put down your hand. Muyiwa Afolabi, can you go ahead? Please make it snappy. Our time is fast spent. In few seconds, can you ask your question, Muyiwa Afolabi?
Yeah, good morning. Thank you so much for the session. I really appreciate. I've learned a lot of things here. So my name is Afolabi Muyiwa. I'm a medical student from Obafemi Law University, Nigeria. So I have some few questions actually on this skills set of it in, because I realized that I'm actually someone that has these good skills in working with young people. I have this ability to bring young people together, to organize things and to do things. Career-wise, I'm studying medicine and surgery. Like I'll soon be a doctor. However, like in my foundation, I have actually created, even right on in school, I realized that I have people from different departments coming together under that foundation, like coming together to do things, to give back to the society. And in line with that, we've done many things, like give back to the society in kinds, both in terms of mobilization on 8 days, on on many things. Like today is our mental health day. We have a rally we are doing today, our mental health day. Antimicrobial resistance is coming in November. We are hoping to do that too. This is coming from people from different departments. But something I kind of realized is that each individual that happens to be like in this foundation, alongside with some of our Millennium Fellows too, we are together. I realize that the challenges that they do have is that everybody wants to have his or her talent shown. His or her skills shown in this foundation. Like they want to benefit from the foundation. Different people come up with different ideologies to my DM, and they put it for like, okay, let us pitch this, let us pitch that. the ability to now kind of find an overlap between all of these skill set from these very much talented individuals to come up with something definite is kind of a bit challenging. And I wanted to expatiate on that. Like, did you at any point in time felt something like this? How to like the channel benefits and opportunities of from people from different diverse areas into a single team? And how did you go about it? And it does not affect your career and other people's careers too. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Afolabi. I think, first of all, congratulations on the wonderful work you're doing. It's so nice to hear about everything that you're doing to bring people together to create an impact. It's so wonderful, genuinely. So big congratulations to you and everybody else who's over here. In fact, I absolutely believe very strongly in the fact that we need to try to work with all kinds of different people because and include as many as possible. Otherwise, what is the point? I feel like in our society right now, everything has become so polarized that we are always looking for differences in each other. We're looking at how we are different. It's become us and them, and us becomes smaller and smaller and smaller, and them becomes larger, larger, larger. And I feel like we need to kind of find a way of finding common and shared humanity in each other, because it is, and I've tried to do that as much as possible, and I've made so many friends, and I made so many people that who I love, who end up loving me, and so many connections, so many allies, only by looking at the best in people versus looking at the worst in them. Nobody is going to be the same as each other. Whenever you're working with big sections of young people who come from different backgrounds, there is going to be, sometimes it's difficult to find a common language. The way we did that at Yuva. So again, at Yuva, my company, we actually hire from different parts of India. We don't hire only from Bombay, where I am based out of. We try to get people from north, south, east, west, and India is really large, right? And I would imagine that Nigeria is big, and I would imagine that a lot of the other, the African continent is big. So as you have many different countries in Africa, we have many different states in India, and each state has a different world and a different language and a different geography. They're not as common as you would think. We try to have as many of those representative in our team because we want to learn from each other. Our common language is empathy. So we have a commandment at a few commandments that we have at Yuva, 10 commandments, one of which, and I think the top one is, our politics is empathy. That we will always look at empathy in each other. Because there are going to be points of division, there are going to be things that we don't agree with or we don't understand about each other. But if we have empathy, and if we are looking at the humanity of each other and trying to recognize that not everybody's story is the same, and there is a story in everybody that I don't know about, I am not going to judge anybody's opinion. I'm not going to judge anybody's point of view without knowing about their context, without knowing about the history, without knowing about the backdrop. So, and it's not, and as I said, everybody has to buy into that value system. The only way it works is if you have, and again, like the MCN fellows right now, all of you have certain values that you are, and exactly, Christine has brought it up, as I was saying, humility, empathy, inclusion. These are the values that all of you agree with. That agreement is as important for the leaders of this as it is for everyone participating in this. And when you are leading a team of young people or working with young people, if you don't have that, if somebody doesn't buy into that value system or doesn't believe in it, then you will always have problems. So you need to define what is a value system towards which everybody is working. And you can see this actually in most politicians also. You can see in most political parties also. They try to define, sometimes they define by what they, what values that they all care about and want to build. And sometimes they define values by saying, here's what we are against. And that's how they kind of rally people together, that all of us are against this one thing, and if we are all together against it, then we are all together as human beings. But that's, I think, not the right way. I don't think we should use we should define ourselves with what we are against. We should define ourselves with what we are for and what we care about together. And yeah, I hope that answers your question. But great question. All of you have had such good questions. And now we have reached the last one. I'm a little sad about that, but I've had such a great time. I just want to say that again. And thank you again for calling me. Yeah, over to the next person.
Thank you so much, Nikhil. Shalom, you are the last person. Can you quickly ask your question while we round up everything?
All right, thank you so much. I hope you're able to hear me. My name is Omondo Shalom. I'm from Uganda. I'm also studying medicine and surgery here in Uganda. And I'm so grateful that I've been part of this webinar because I'm also a founder of a mental health organization here that is non-profit. It's called I Mental Health Uganda. And I am so grateful that you got to share your part of the story and how you came to your work, because I think it also kind of resonated with me because I had a mental health crisis while I was in my first year in university, and I didn't really have the money to pay for a therapy or to reach the services I needed. So I saw a gap and I was like, you know what? I'm sure there are probably many people that are like me right now or that are facing issues like that. So we started this organization with a vision to see that we reduce that amount of suicide rates in schools, but also that we are able to extend basic mental health services such as therapy to people that are vulnerable and need it and cannot really afford it. For example, students here in East Africa and these other developing countries. So my first question, and I really have to ask this one, is we would love to get some kind of, I don't know, session with you on our platform. I don't know how if that is
love to do it,
even.
Armando. I'd love to do that. I can please have James or anyone. I'll also put my email ID over here, but you can have anybody kind of get. Actually, I'm much more active on Instagram than I am on email. So if you send me a message on Instagram, I will coordinate with you. But yeah, you seem what fantastic work that you're talking about. I'm so happy to hear that. In all different parts of Africa now, mental health has become so important. Even in India now, slowly and steadily, different parts are learning about the importance, and many homegrown organizations, very young organizations, are now coming up to work on it. And yeah, big cheers and kudos to you for doing this. And I would love to find a way of having any conversation with your team whenever possible.
All right, thank you so much. That's really, I was really shaking asking this one because I didn't think it would happen, but I'm really grateful for that. Then my last question is, how do you manage leadership? Because what we do is we are students. I'm a student myself, so we encourage volunteers to join us. So even if I'm a co-founder, I'm a volunteer myself, and we have psychotherapists, life coaches, people that are pioneering clubs in their institutions under us, and they're also volunteers. And we have a little bit of course, I'm not necessarily a leader as such. I'm more of a medical student and a doctor, and I never even imagined that I would have done mental health at any one point in my life, and until I had my own personal experiences. So what's the best way to go about leadership in such an organization where you have volunteers that are really, can I say, diverse, and we have different institutions compared to other schools that also have. So it's been a lot trying to put everyone together and trying to work on the major goal, which is bringing therapy and mental health services closer to people.
So your question is, how do you get diverse volunteers as part of your unit? That's the question. So Armando, I couldn't. Hello.
Shalom.
Yes, sorry, I was muted, but yes.
Yeah. So first of all, I think you said while speaking that you don't see yourself as a leader. You are just a student. I don't think that's true. I think you are a leader. You've already done things to prove that by starting an organization, by getting by not only just caring about mental health but taking action. That is leadership. So I think step one is always to accept that you are a leader. Not everybody who cares about something decides to do something about it, and the leaders do that. All of us are passive, and many of us are passive, and that's okay as well, right? Not all of us have the sometimes the capacity or sometimes the capability to put things together. So I think uh, true leadership is first starting to accept that that this is what I want to work on, which is leadership. So you accept yourself as a leader. And then second, I think it is about, again, it's just about actions. If you want to involve and get as many different kinds of folks as possible to be part of your organization, take those actionable steps, right? First of all, in your own work, you need to be you need to show that leadership. You need to constantly, if you started an organization, what are you doing with it, in a way that everybody else is observing it, and everybody else is looking at it and saying, you know what, this is incredible, I want to join this person. So a lot of it is pull, right? A lot of it is putting yourself out there, doing such good work that people are inherently excited and interested in being part of you. When it comes to having diversity and having I think a lot of that is specific. You need to take that action in trying to include folks who may not otherwise get included. So as an example, and I know this may not be the a similar thing to what you might be facing, but most media companies in India are actually led by men, unfortunately, right? That's just how it is. When I started my company, I wanted to ensure that there is gender equality. There's at least 50% women in my company, and as a male founder, I wanted to ensure that my leadership is not just men, it has women in it as well. So I started putting out even posts that said that looking to hire for this position, and would prefer women candidates because we are a gender equal organization and we're looking for it. And some of that got hate from men, but that's okay. But we found some wonderful women, and our initial organization, and now it's a place, we have reached the place where when we hire, naturally more women somehow apply and somehow are even better than everybody else who participates. So now 70% of our organization is women, and about 50 to 60% of the leadership, people who are leading different verticals, are women. And it's happened organically, but initially I needed to make a concerted effort, because I also recognize that a lot of the people that I know in my previous jobs happen to be men, because that's the way it works. It's like, if you are from a certain powerful a group, it's always those people that you're hanging out with. It's only those people that you are then when you're hiring or when you're starting something, you're like, okay, I'm a man, I'm comfortable with other men, let's just get them. But you have to make that effort when you put it out. Now, every post that we, as an example, put out right now, we encourage folks from marginalized communities to apply, and we make and it's our call also at the end of the day, by the way, Amondo, that when there are two candidates that you have, and one of them has a certain kind of skill set, the other is from a diverse profile or a marginalized community, but has some sort of a skill set, but not the exact one. You need to try, if you can afford it and if you have the capacity to, you need to hire the person who may be from a diverse background or a marginalized background, and get them on, and then train them. The reason they don't have the expertise that the other candidate has is because they are not being given opportunities. So then you need to show that you are giving those opportunities, bring people in, train them, and then they become the people who train others, right? So you have to make the first steps and take those first steps from your end. And when people see that, more people will recognize that you are creating a safe space. It's a good organization to be a part of, and more people will join in. Hope that answers your question. But yeah, what wonderful questions all of you have had today. It's been absolutely a pleasure to listen to you all, to speak with you all. I'm so happy. And again, just a huge round of cheers to all of you who are leading this as well. As I said, leaders are important. MCN, the Millennium Fellowship, the United Nations Academic Impact, all the folks over here, Christine, James, Adrija, Adivole, thank you so much for such a great moderation, Adivole. It was so nice speaking with you. But yeah, I'm really
Thank
happy
you
to have a common
so
chat
much. Thank you so much, Nikhil Taneja. You have been speaking for almost 1 hour, 30 minutes, and it's been a lot of values that you have been dispensing out. I've learned quite a lot of things in this meeting today, and I can see that everyone who has joined today too has learned quite a lot from your words of knowledge. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. Right now we'll be rounding up. Announcement for Millennium Fellows. We have 2 webinars coming in the next week. One is coming this week, Thursday, and another next week, Wednesday. This week, Thursday, we'll be having Taylor Downs, and on Wednesday, next week, we'll be having Julia Di Casere. So stay tuned and look out for the link for the next webinar, and ensure you join, and it will be another great time of coming together in this fellowship. Thank you all for joining. I think this is a convenient place to bring this to a close today. Thank you all for joining. Thank you, Nikki, once again for coming and for everything that you have dispensed to us today. Thank you, Christian, Adrijas, and all our.
I would love to take a screenshot of everybody's faces. So if you want to put on your cameras, I would love to just have this memory of everyone that I got to speak to. So whoever can switch on their cameras, please do. I would love to take a picture of who all I got to chat with today. It's my favorite part of every conversation, just to have all the amazing faces. Now I get to finally see you all. I've just been seeing, and that's my only. While of course Zoom is great, and technology is great that it makes us all come together like this. I wish we could do this in person, but yeah, this is great. And as Christine said, Zoom collage. Okay, I want to just take a picture now, and you feel free to take it too if you want. But thank you so much. Please, when I take a picture, just pretend that you enjoyed this. So please smile. That I can tell everyone else, it was actually really great. Everyone, look at them smiling. They really liked it. But yeah, really nice meeting you all. Thank you so much. And I will take your leave now. I've given my Instagram ID in the chat. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. But thank you so much, James, again for having me, and all the others who have been so kind. It was so nice to meet you all. All right. Bye, everyone.